What are things you as an entrepreneur, as a leader and CEO, what are you focused on? Is it like product next? And then how do you do the product piece correctly? And what does that look like? What are the processes that you set up? How do you build that? Or is it go to market? What are the pieces you look at on that front to try to get that going? What are the elements that are critical? Okay, if you theoretically taken care of somewhat the team in cultural aspects, what are the other elements you then focus on next?
Really has to do with the kind of business you're building. So I'll give you some examples. There are people who build what had traditionally been called middle class, small to medium sized businesses. Maybe they're lifestyle businesses, maybe their ambition is to be something more, but it's not a venture backed, it's got to grow 30% year over year type of thing. If you're selling a service, it looks different than if you're selling a physical product, it looks different than if you're selling a piece of software. So it really varies widely in terms of what's the next most important thing. For me, before I talk about me, I'll just say one more thing. There's so many different kinds. I've used the term CEOs because entrepreneurs tend to be leaders. There's so many different kinds. There's product-oriented ones, there's business-oriented ones, there's sales-oriented ones, there's technically oriented ones. I'm a product and technical guy who has adapted skill sets into the other areas out of necessity. But who you are really dictates your initial frame. And sometimes it's right and sometimes it's wrong. So for a lot of things that I do, I'm usually swinging for the fences. It's not to say that if you spot, some vertical, some niche in a vertical, and, you approach the problem very algorithmically, it's not to say that's wrong. That might be right for that particular circumstance. And there's lots of examples. Certainly if you go to startup school, which didn't have when I started doing this, they'll teach you start with the problem and work your way backwards. Okay, this is the problem people lay awake at night wondering how to solve. Therefore they'll pay for it. What will they pay? A lot of people kind of break it down backwards in the algorithmic way, and that's a kind of entrepreneur. They're not wrong and they're great. Doesn't really work when you're trying to change the world, because by definition, it is a different view to trying to impact the world in a big way versus build a business around a particular problem set and solution set. So there's no wrong or right answer. It's just circumstantial about what you're trying to do. And then what is the next thing? For me, the first 3 stages of the startup are prove the tech will work, prove people will use it, prove people will pay for it. That's pretty universal in software development, we're independent of what kind of business, whether it's a SaaS web service or it's a desktop piece of software. Prove the tech will work, prove people use it, prove people pay for it. So I'll orient around, okay, we got to prove the tech will work. Who do we need to do that? Who wears multiple hats on that? And what do we think? We still have to be mindful that we're trying to build a business. I'll talk a little bit about how to think about that in a second. And we have a mind to be venture backed. So that means something else as well. It means we make a different set of choices than if you're just trying to build a business that was bootstrapped. But okay, heading in that direction, we see an opportunity space, we see a problem space, we need to prove that things will work. I'll give you an example. CloudMark was a company I built with an amazing co-founder, Vipul Prakash, and we're both serial entrepreneurs at this point. It was actually my first AI company. We built it in 2002. Before this AI we weren't allowed to call it AI back then.
Big data at that point, not even machine learning.
It wasn't even big data. I don't even think it was big data. Maybe big data was just starting to become a thing. It was cloud. It was people just starting to think about hosted server farms as cloud. It was the classic marketing rebranding of the same product, just with value-added infrastructure services. We were building machine learning technology. That was sort of my piece. And Vipul's part was a collaborative filtering system with a trust and reputation system behind it. And the marriage of the two became the product offering. Today, I think filters 19% of the internet's email.